Peace, peace, peace. I am Philip Browntree, and you are tuned into episode 36 of hashtag You Good Man. So in this episode, this is another one of those people that I really wanted to talk to, really have conversation with for a myriad of reasons, outside of the fact that he is known as the EyeBrowKing, right? And so I've been going around, I've been talking to people like, listen, you got to tune in, especially the women, right, who really are concerned about their eyebrows. One girl was like, she was like, he really the EyeBrowKing? I showed him your Instagram.
Yeah.
And she was like, oh, I'm definitely going to tune in. She was like, maybe he can help me get my eyebrows back.
Good.
Right. And so, listen, with no further ado, I introduce Mr. Nick Townsend. So how you feeling, brother?
I'm good. Can't complain. Just finished working in the salon. So it's a good day. How about you? How's your day?
Listen, my day is wonderful. I just came from the gym, which is the birthplace of where I met you.
That's right.
I really think this might be the first legit conversation that we've ever had.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
It's usually like this.
Yeah, what's up?
What's up, bro? What's going on, bro?
Yeah. Yeah, but the beautiful thing about that is, I recognize that you are doing your thing in there, right? You don't want to interrupt people. You don't want to throw people's concentration off or what have you when you're in the gym. So, but just the fact that two brothers could say what's up to one another, that's something we rarely see, especially being from Philadelphia. I always tell the story of how I've gone to different states and I'm getting off the plane with the Grizzly and people are smiling at me and saying hello. And I'm like, I'm from Philadelphia. I don't say what's up. So the fact that we are able to even acknowledge one another's existence is such a beautiful thing, man. So I definitely want to thank you for, just being a what appears to be a good brother, a humble brother, and a confident brother. That's also something that struck me just in observing you, right? We observe people from afar. I'm sweating like nobody's business in here. This always happens. Maybe I need to turn the air on, maybe, but nah, that bill gets too high. But just the way you carry yourself with the air of confidence, and that, you can feel that when you're around people who have such a positive energy. So I just want to, show you that love and give you your roses while you're here, because I think that's important from brother to brother.
I appreciate that. That.
No doubt. So first and foremost, can you let people know who you are and what it is that you do?
Okay. I am Nick Townsend. I am affectionately known as the East Coast Brow King. I am a licensed esthetician. I have been a licensed esthetician for 16 years. I've been specializing in brows for 16 years, and that is my niche. I have a salon here in Philadelphia in the East Falls section, and we do extremely well. I have clients that fly in from have had clients that fly in from Israel. I have clients that fly in from Japan quarterly just to get their brows done. People from New York, Baltimore. I'm originally from Baltimore. Let me put that disclaimer. I'm originally from Baltimore, but my career started in Philadelphia on the main line, which is the suburbs, outskirts of Philadelphia. I do have a salon, again, in East Falls. We specialize in brow shaping. I'm usually booked 4 to 6 weeks in advance. So, and we have our own. Last year, we launched our product line, which is doing extremely well. I'm excited about that. We have over 39 salons that retail our products. And we've only been, we just turned one, the actual product line, which are pencils and all of that stuff. So I'm a serial entrepreneur. It's in my blood. I'm 4th generation entrepreneur. So what else? I went to Morgan State University. I majored in music education. I don't know what else to say.
Yeah, that's always the difficult part, man, when somebody asks you, okay, so tell me about yourself. And you're like, well, I'm a man and I'm alive.
Yeah.
Yeah, it can be difficult at times, but no, I think you pretty much summed it up. So with regards to, I do want to touch on you being the EyeBrowKing, as well as get into one of the main reasons why I wanted to reach out to you in particular, and I'll get to that. But just as far as how did you get into being that career path, as far as being a licensed, how do I say it, esthetician?
There you go.
Yeah, I see. A licensed esthetician.
I kind of paid attention to my mother. She always gave herself a facial, so I kind of mimicked what my mom did, and my family is in the beauty industry. And so it wasn't until I was in my early 20s, and again, I always got a haircut every Thursday religiously, and I gave myself a facial. And it wasn't until I went and got a facial and got the facial, and I'm looking like, this is what I do to myself. And so I asked the young lady what it was, and she said it's an esthetician. And so that's when I just ran with it. When I started my career, I was only focused on skin. But thank you. I was only focused on skin, and when I moved to Philly, to become an esthetician. And
okay,
I
so that
moved
was
to
the
Philly
reason
to
why
become.
you moved there. Okay.
That's why I moved here, because actually, here's the thing. I'm from Baltimore. There's a school in Baltimore, which is one of the world famous schools for aesthetics. I went to become an esthetician, and they would not accept me because there are no male estheticians at the time.
There we go.
And so with that being said, they weren't, because we got to learn Brazilians, waxings, and all that stuff. And so they were very shady. They didn't say it directly, but they said it informally that, they really weren't interested. So I had friends here, and I went to the school while visiting, and I said, listen, I'm going to be here for 3 months, get my license, then go back to Baltimore to work. But what they call reciprocity would not kick in, because you needed more hours to work in Maryland versus Philadelphia. So they said I needed to either go back to school or work a year. And so a year, here we go, 16 years. And so while I was in school, I learned waxing, and I was working at a salon, Hair for You, on South Street. Shout out to Zena and Hair for You. I went to her, I said, listen, I want to learn, I just learned how to do brows on Friday. Can I start doing brows on Saturday? And she was like, sure. That Saturday, I never looked back. And I wasn't even licensed yet.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
that's
dope.
Yeah.
That's dope. That's dope. Just to go back a little bit, and that was one of my questions. When I initially, okay,
I'm here. Go ahead.
You all right?
Yeah, go ahead. I knew that was
cool.
going to happen. Go ahead. I'm listening.
Okay, so going back, and that was one of the questions that I wanted to ask you, because what I do know of estheticians, I do follow a couple on like Facebook. We're Facebook friends. They do happen to be women, right? And so with it being a women-dominated field for the most part, how was that transition? And with regards to Baltimore, it seems like they were subscribing to the idea of gender roles, right?
Certainly.
Where you were looked at as being a man. So there's a lot of things that come with that, right? You probably were automatically thought of as being probably a cis hetero male.
Yeah.
Probably might have been thought of being potentially a pervert, right?
Yeah.
Because here you are, wanting to work with women. Probably the same thing they said about male gynecologists.
Certainly, yeah.
Way back when. So just how was that for you emotionally and mentally, dealing with that specific rejection, knowing that it wasn't based on your ability to succeed in their program, but really just based on your gender?
It pissed me off because I wanted to go to the school. It's the best school in the country. It is. At the time, it was the best school in the country, and I really wanted to go to the school. But one thing about Nicck Townsend is that I'm a determined man. And so that is something that I wanted to do, and it did not matter, excuse me, what they thought I should not do. I was going to do it. And so that's when I moved to Philly, and I went to school. And even once I got into the career, in my career, there were still people that side-eyed me. I was doing Brazilians, and it's just like, it was to the point where, to protect myself, I would have actually have one of the other girls stand at the door, because I'm doing a Brazilian. I'm waxing the private area, and I wanted her to be at the door simply because people are crazy, and I didn't want someone to tell an untruth of what happened in the service. And
Yeah.
so, but that was the beginning part of my career. It has changed drastically. We can get into that a little bit later, but it has changed drastically. How was you doing Brazilians? How was doing Brazil? I had a big career. Someone asked, I just want to
Yeah,
answer.
yeah, yeah. No, do your thing.
I worked in the city and I had a huge following. That was years ago when they gave you an hour to wax someone's private area. Now we're doing it 7 and 10 minutes. But I had a huge following. I had a lot of women that came to me, and a lot of women, at first when they were feeling comfortable getting Brazilians by me, I would always ask them this question: do you have a male or female OBGYN? And so they would say, well, I have a male OBGYN. Then you wouldn't have an issue with me because I'm getting you prepared for your pap smear.
Yeah.
I'm making it pretty so that you can put your legs up on stirrups, and that's it. But it's been, and then the other thing is you get women that are female estheticians that just have an issue with you because in the beauty industry, if we have to be perfectly honest, women prefer men. They prefer men to do their makeup. They prefer men to do their hair.
Okay.
Yeah, they prefer men to do their hair, their makeup. Even if some are doing nails, they prefer men to dress them. All of that stuff. A lot of women prefer men, and other.
Why do you think that is?
Because, in my opinion, women will not. A lot of women are intimidated by other women. So they won't, some of them will do them a disservice. Whereas we as men know what other men are looking for.
Okay.
If that makes sense.
It does.
And so I will give my beauty perspective as a beauty professional and a male perspective of what men are looking for. And also women feel more beautiful when men are working on them. So, yeah.
So it's a self-esteem piece, as well as this idea of, if this is what potentially I'm trying to attract, it makes sense for me to have the person who's doing it be somebody who's similar to the person I want to attract.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yep. Absolutely.
Okay. That makes sense. So what was your family's response, your family and friends' response to you desiring to go into the beauty industry?
My dad didn't get it because he just didn't get it. He owns a barbershop, so he didn't get it. My mom, she kept calling me an electrician. Because my mother, my mom is the baby of 14 kids, so she grew up in the South, so very limited in the way that they thought, because you only did one or two things. You either worked for the government, you worked at a hospital, or you went to college, and that was it. So becoming an esthetician in the beginning portion of my career, my mom. I had struggles like anyone that starting out in their career where I was poor. I was extremely poor. And she said to me, Nicholas, people don't do that as a full-time job. They do that as a part-time gig. And I knew she was talking from a place of concern and wanting to protect her son. So I stopped speaking to her for 6 months. Not because I was angry with her, but because I did not need to consider what she was saying, simply because before she told me to stop, and I stopped doing it and started working for the school system, and I hated it. And so I no longer needed to consider what she was saying because she was talking from a limited place. Does that make sense? And
it does.
And so and she was hurt behind it, but I didn't care because I needed to do what Nicholas needed to do. And so after the 6 months, and I was diligent, Nicck Townsend started to evolve, and it's just and even the height of my career started in 2007, 2008, from when That's the Philly for Philadelphia magazine, and she still didn't get save all your money, don't spend all your money, save all your money, So that was the only issue that I had, was my mom just not speaking to her, which was hard, but I did not need to consider what she had to say. And fast forward, she understands now, and she said, "I'm glad that you did it."
Yeah. So now with her saying she was glad that you do it, knowing what you know now, and I'm sure you've evolved emotionally and mentally since then, would you change anything? Would you go back and say, you know what, maybe I would interact with her, but whatever advice or whatever she's telling me, whatever energy she's giving me, I'm just going to let that fall by the wayside?
No, I would have did the same exact way.
Okay.
Simply because I think that everything happens the way that it happens just so that we could become. And I didn't need, because again, my mother has 2 children. I'm the baby. My brother's 13 years older than me. So I didn't need to, and she and I are really, really close. I didn't need to consider anything that she had to say. I totally did not need to consider anything that she had to say, because I don't believe in a plan A or a plan B. I believe in one plan, and this plan is going to work. It has no choice to work. So I had to put 100% in it without any distractions.
Yeah, and I think, you know, and this maybe the therapist in me. And so what I'm hearing is, it was like with her potentially being one of the most influential people in your life.
Yeah.
Like you said, you did go into the school system because she said, listen, don't do this. And so it was just like, you know what, if I'm going to do this, I need to separate myself for a period of time so I can really and fully believe in myself. Because I'm sure during that period there was some self-doubt. And so if anything is coming in that's not affirming what I'm feeling, then that could mean the difference of me talking to Nicck Townsend, the electrician, and not Nicck Townsend, the esthetician.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know what I mean.
Right.
Yeah. Okay, cool. No, it makes complete sense. It makes complete sense. So again, and this might be a self-serving agenda. One of the reasons why I definitely wanted to have you on. So I emailed you, right? I emailed you just to give the people a little backstory. Again, you know, somebody I see from afar. You know, I'm just interested in people, especially men at this stage. Hence the reason why this is a men's wellness podcast. And I think there's, especially as people who identify as hetero cis males, they don't really acknowledge other individuals who might identify different. Their experiences aren't respected, and just in society as a whole. I think we're making some strides, but in the Black community especially, there's still this fear of anybody who doesn't identify with what mainstream society says, which is, again, being a hetero cis male. And so I emailed you, and you know, my question was, I wanted to know how you identify, right? And I wanted to be respectful about it. Because I didn't want to make any assumptions, right? Even though we're human, and you know, I can say now after you've confirmed it, like, okay, I get it. You know, that's Nick identifies as being a gay Black male,
right?
Which is dope. But I wanted to have you on here because this is a voice that's, you know, much maligned in our community, and I just wanted to just learn more about. Again, you can't speak for all gay Black men, like I can't speak for all Black men, but I would like to know a little bit about your experience as far as being a gay Black male, the idea of identity, figuring out what your identity is versus what masculinity is. Like you said, your dad is a barber, he owned a barber shop or what have you. So again, that's going down the quote unquote masculine checklist. But here we have you being an esthetician. So just what was that journey like for you as far as once you realized how you identify?
I think that the first thing that I like to say is that I identify first as being a man. I think that when we segregate ourselves, because I think that's what we do, is we put the gay men over here, straight men over here, dark men over here, light-skinned men over here, and it goes on and on and on, and it's almost a battle. But for me, I'm 39, so
I swore you was like 26, 27.
Well, yeah, that's just a little bit of the thick skin and the disease. But what was difficult growing up was and especially in the Black community, I was never a masculine boy. I was never a masculine boy. So that was something that, in my opinion, my parents always knew. But at the same time, it is not something that they wanted to embrace because that I wasn't normal.
Okay.
And so that was infringed upon me not to, like, for instance, and I can give this story. When I was a little boy, I had a switch. I probably still do. I don't know. And I remember being, and I got in trouble. I got a beaten. I got spanked for switching, or if I got spanked if the other kids, other boys in the neighborhood would call me names. And it's my family's from the South, so but and I remember being probably 3 or 4 years old in pre-K, and my mom would say to the teacher, she would say, "If he switches, let me know." And every day I got a beating until one day, for 1 week, I did not get up. I would not get up, and it caused me something to happen with my urinary tract that I had to have surgery. Yeah, I was young. I still have the scar. And so parents were, I think, parents aren't so much afraid of their children, in my experience, of being gay, but they're afraid of what they think other parents are going to say about them. And I think that is the unfortunate part, is that they think they're more concerned about what people are going to think about. They make it about them and not about the child. And I always say this: you can't say to a child, you can be whatever you want to be, because you really don't mean that. You can be whatever you want to be, contingent upon what makes me look good. And so that is just my and don't shake your head. It's okay, y'all. Don't shake your head. It's okay. But it's an unfortunate thing, but it happens in our community every day. And I was fortunate enough to be a child that got to the point where, like, I didn't care. I'm going to be me regardless of independent.
When was that? When do you recognize that you got to that point where it was just like, you know what, this is who I am, and I'm just going to embrace who I am?
I think it's been the whole time. I think it's been the entire time. Growing up, we never had a conversation and say, "Hey, Mom, I'm going to sit down. Hey, Dad, I'm this." No, it was never a conversation. It's something that we knew. And so because see, here's the thing. It was always, at one point in time, it was, I raised you the best way I knew how, but you decided to be. And I always ask this question: what child wakes up in the morning and decides to become something that the world does not recognize, or your peers will find you being deficient? Does that make sense?
No, it does.
What child wakes up in the morning and say, "I'm going to be something that when I go into the barbershop, guys are going to have an attitude and want to fight me"? We call it bullying. We call it bullying now, but we called it teasing back then. I'm going to decide to become something that when I walk down the hallway, they're going to tease me or they're going to bully me. I don't understand that. And so, because I said to my mother, and this was just recent, my mom just turned 70. I'm jumping all over the place, but I want to jump to this conversation.
No.
I want to talk this conversation that we had. I said, you were born in 1949. I said, what if, because we are Christian, I said, what if God came down in 1948, the day that you were conceived, and gave you the option to look down at the world as it was, and you decide what you will become? She said, what do you mean? I said, what you will become. Whether you become a black woman or what would you, I said, what would you be? I would be myself. I said, no. I said, you're not you, but what would you decide to become so that your life would be easier? You get to look at the world in 1948 and you get to decide what you'll become, what you can become so that your life could be easier. And the tears began to fall. Wow. I said, you would be a white man, wouldn't you? And she couldn't stop crying. She said, yeah. I said, well, so what makes you think that, in my opinion, a child would make a decision to be something that their parents would say that they're displeased about? And so that is what I say to everyone, you know. But for me, it was I can't remember the epiphany of when I remember going to prom, because I've always did what I wanted to do, kind of sort of, but with in respect.
Yeah.
My mom said, you can't work. I was 14. I went and found a job because I wanted my own money. I'm spoiled. It was prom. She said, you're wearing a tux to the prom. No, I'm not. And I paid for my own tux. So, well, I mean, my own outfit. So it was just more, I was always determined, never disrespectful, but I was always determined because I needed to be who I am, because if I chose to be who you wanted me to be, I wouldn't be who I am today. And who I am today has made such an impact on people at large.
Yeah. Yeah. Now listen, man, that was heavy. That was, no, seriously, that was extremely heavy. I mean, first I want to say that I'm proud of you, right? Like I'm proud of you. Again, I want to show you love with regards to that. And I do agree with you. As far as, again, what society has, and I think a lot of parents mean well, right?
Yeah.
They mean well because, again, if it was up to me, I have a 10-year-old daughter. If it was up to me, she would be a femme, a hetero cis femme, right? If it was up to me, and that's because I want her, I can't change her complexion, right? I can't make her white. I want her to have the easiest life possible.
Yeah.
Right? But I recognize that that's not a reality. And I think for some parents, they express their love and they show their love, and they're hurt, right? They're hurt. They look at it and they might view it as a character flaw from them. It's a parenting flaw when you say about, how other parents might perceive them. It's just like, well, you didn't do a good enough job raising your kids. And that's one of the worst things that you can say to a parent, right? That you didn't do a good job raising your child. So in these situations, I always express, whether it's to clients or just to people in general, to show grace, right? To have empathy, but also that accountability piece that's needed, right? So the fact that you are able and feel comfortable enough in your voice to say, this is who I am, whether it's at an early age or still having this conversation now, because this is a continuous conversation that takes place, because I think you're still, regardless of how you've adapted, it's still a healing process that's taking place as you continue on. Right. And so and again, feel free to correct me if I'm wrong. This is just my professional opinion, right?
I got you.
Like one of the ways that you were coping during this time was to say, all right, I'm going to do this on my own. I have to exert my independence, right? Because if I don't know what might happen to me, right? I don't know where I might be. So I have to show that I'm not, whatever perception they have about a gay black man, I'm not going to be that, right? So if it's weak, I need to exhibit strength, ultimate strength. I need to exhibit impeccable decision making. And so I guess my question to you was that process tiring at any point where you just wanted to have that? Well, of course you wanted that acceptance, but in that process, were you tired at any point? Was it like, listen, I just want to let my hair down. I just want to be able to just be, right, without having to show people or potentially prove people wrong, if that makes sense to you.
No, that makes a lot
or
of
prove
sense.
yourself right.
That's it. I think that you get exhausted trying to get people to get you. And I think in my late 20s, well, my mid 20s, because people really wouldn't bother me. I made a decision that I'm not going to keep trying to explain who I am and the courage that I have to live in my truth.
Yeah.
Not making a decision, but not making a decision to become something, but making a decision to have courage. And I think that the most phenomenal people, gay, straight, black, white, yellow, pink, whatever you are those that are courageous enough to say, this is who I am, and I'm going to live independently above the good and the negative opinions of you. Yeah. And because I now have, and I think that comes from, and I say this all the time, is having an encounter with me. And that happens sometimes in the car, turning off the radio and having a conversation with me. And so when I'm having a conversation with me, I can say, oh, I'm funny. Or I can say, oh, you did that. Or, I'm having a conversation. Because a lot of times we have conversations with ourselves and it's always negative. I'm not this, I'm not that. I'm not this. It's all that. And we reside there. And I choose, I noticed that because, that's something that's always in the forefront of our mind, but what's always in the recessive of our mind is I'm a good person. I'm this and that and the other. But I bring that to the front. And so what I do is I make a decision about how I feel about me. And so when people subscribe to me about their opinion of me, and I hope you're following everything that I'm saying, when they subscribe their opinion of me, like if someone says to me, and I say this all the time, even to my students, oh, Nick, you're the best at brows. I'm polite enough to say, thank you, because I've been taught to be polite. But in the recessive part of my mind, I'm saying, I know. It's so great that you agree. Because, see, here's the thing. The reason why I say that is not to be arrogant. It's because I've had an encounter with me and my work. So I live independently above the good and the negative opinions of you. Does that make sense?
It does.
So I think that's people are too afraid to deal with themselves. And that is something that I had to do at 15, 16, 17, in my 20s. In my 30s, will be 40 next year. I always have to do that. Because if I don't, I'll be too busy. Oh, I've been there living off of people's opinion, if that makes sense. Nick, you're good. If they say I'm good, then I must be good. If they say I'm amazing, then I must be amazing. Because, and let me go back to rejection. If I can be very, very, very candid, the rejection that I've had with career, if we want to say it, all aspects of my life, all of the acceptance were from people that did not look like me. In my career, and I'm very candid about this, in my career, for 13 of those years, my clientele did not look like me. They viewed me as a gift. They never questioned my pricing or anything like that. It wasn't until I got on this platform, to God be the glory for this platform, is when the people that look like me came on board. Mm-hmm. And I made a conscious decision in my mind way back, because my feelings were hurt. My feelings were hurt in all aspects. Feelings were hurt, but then I got over it because I stopped trying to explain. And I said to myself, I'm not going to explain myself. I'll wait for them. If that makes sense. Yeah.
It does. Hold on one second. Take these comments down. Because I'm going through the same thing, right? Mm-hmm. I'm going through the exact same thing. So I've been a full-time entrepreneur now, as a mental wellness advocate, a wellness coach, a speaker, and what have you. And the places that are booking me, the people who are giving me my flowers now are people that don't look like me. Yeah. And so I was having a conversation. A brother came up to me, and I was in Uncle Bobby's, and for those who are in Philadelphia, I run a men's group at Uncle Bobby's. The next one is on June 3rd. Feel free to come through. But he came up to me, he said, "What do you think of this, Phil?" He said, "The idea of expertise versus ego." And mind you, this is like 8 a.m. And I'm like, all right, I don't know what you're talking about, brother. And what he said was, for some reason, people that look like us, when we're not viewed as the expert first, right? We're viewed as it being ego. He said we have to prove ourselves to people that look like us before they would give us the title of moniker, the moniker of being an expert. So in your case, where you said these white folk, I mean, you ain't say white folk, but I said white folk.
Well, let's be honest, yeah.
Yeah. So these white folk from the rip, you like, yo, listen, I do brows. You do brows? Cool. Do my brows. What? And it's just like they automatically believe you until you disprove them. With black folk, and I think it has a lot to do with historical racism and what have you. But with us, it's just like, all right, I got to see you do 35, 40 people. I need you to get, I need you to be validated first. And I've experienced that as well. It's just like, I have to show that, you know what, I've gone to these various schools in order for me to get even the smallest black group of contingency of black folk to say, all right, you know what? Yeah, we want you to come out. And so that idea of expert versus ego, and I think that goes to what you may be experiencing or have experienced previously with regards to women who are estheticians, that idea of competition, right? We view each other as being competition so much, especially as black men, where, you know, the idea of collaborating or thinking somebody as an expert, we can't even get to that point because we're so stuck in competition mode. We're stuck in this idea of scarcity, that it's not enough out here for all of us, right? So I refuse to say that you're an expert at brows or I'm an expert in mental health because you might be taking food out of my mouth. But in reality, it's like they said, it paid in full, it's room for everybody to eat, right? And so it's just like us coming out of this bubble to really recognize that, you know what, it's a lot happening out here. It's a lot out here for all of us, and we can all win if we view it as such. And if we view you, if I view you as a brother, if I view you as a sister, I'm going to want you to win, right? And I'm going to trust you as being an expert and not it being you bragging about yourself and being ego or talking about what your accomplishments were. So when you were talking about, you know, somebody saying, yeah, you're great, and you're saying, well, yeah, I know I'm great. You know, that internal validation is already taking place. That's already taking place.
But people are intimidated by that.
Yeah, yeah. And it's honestly, when I heard you talking about that, I was talking, you know, I was hearing myself in that, not the piece where, you know, I'm internally validated, because that's something I'm working through now. That's the reason why I go to therapy on a weekly, bi-weekly basis, because for so long, this period of time, I didn't have a sense of identity. I didn't have a sense of who Phil was outside of what other people thought about me, right? And so now I'm still shocked when, you know, my girlfriend, she might be watching, she might say, you know, damn, you handsome. I heard so much negativity for so long and not being handsome, right? Where I look at you sideways, like, word, me?
Yeah.
Right? And then it's just like, brother, but that's, and what I always say is, that's not the 35-year-old me. 35-year-old me knows I'm the shit, right? But it's that 13-year-old me that was sitting in ninth grade who when they did the who's the cutest in the class, and I would get at the bottom, that's who shows up in that moment when I hear that. And so that's just the work that I'm doing, you know, as far as me. And I know a lot of other brothers who really have this desire, especially once we get into our 30s, to really recognize who we are outside of this box of masculinity. I know for me, that especially when we talk about identity and sexuality identity, and this might be news to people who don't know me, and it's a lot of people who don't know me, but this is something I've dealt with for a long time, right? Recognizing, understanding who I was as far as sexuality wise, because I've been in these circles with males and a bystander, when now we're at a point where they know not to make gay jokes around me, like my homies. Yeah, they don't recognize that I've had, you know, thoughts in my mind as to whether, you know, what my sexual preference was, right? But especially as black men, we're not even allowed to go through that process. We push that to the side. So, you know, once I finally recognize who I am in my 30s and comfortable with who I am, I can say, you know, I'm proud of where I am and how I identify, right? But I recognize that time throughout my teens, throughout my 20s, where I was unable to have this conversation with people. I was able to talk to my mom. I was able to talk to, you know, my close women friends about how I identify and what have you. But still, the people that I hold close, that who were hetero cis men, and just society in general, right? And how I come across, right? We're completely different. I look like I look intimidating. I look like, they say I look like a big black hawk, right? But they wouldn't know that I have these type that at one point I was having these type of thoughts. And so I just think it's critical that we empower, especially young boys, because I'm not the only one. It's a lot that look like me. It's a lot of brothers who might have mannerisms like you, right?
Yeah.
Where they still find difficulty in even being able to even just look at and be able to view and try and learn what their identity is, for fear of being shamed. Hence the reason at one point we had this epidemic of, well, I wouldn't even call it an epidemic, but people being in the closet, right? They might be in heterosexual relationships, but then they're having relations with men on the side because they never really got that opportunity to live. So, I just wanted to bring that up because I think it's important, especially as Black men. That's the reason, again, why I'm so thankful that you came on here, because, again, this empowers me, right? This empowers the brothers that are watching. This empowers the sisters who are watching, who are going to come across young men, young Black and brown men who need that permission, right? To say it's okay to try and understand who you are.
I agree. I think that is the unfortunate part, that I had a cousin. I had a cousin whose son is gay, and she said to me, "I feel like God is punishing me." And I had to let her know it ain't about you. See, you're making it about you. And I said to her, if you step outside of you and focus on him and accepting all of who your son is, you don't have to accept his sexuality, but accept your son and every aspect of him. Because, see, again, like I told her, he didn't make that decision. That's just my opinion. No child wakes up, and, and so she
chooses heartache and chooses pain.
And I'm just like, you can't do that. But the unfortunate thing is that we as a community will not allow men to experience being vulnerable. We won't allow them to experience. We won't allow them to talk about being vulnerable. We won't allow them to talk about anything outside of anything that has anything to do with sexuality. Because we don't talk about sexuality. Because when we talk about sexuality, well, you must be gay. We don't talk about sexuality. That is gay, straight, just sexuality, sexual. We don't even sit and have conversations on sex education in our community, which is unfortunate. That's why the HIV stats are even higher, because we're not having these conversations. It has nothing to do with down low men, because and I'm just putting this out there because I work with one of the communities. The stats are rising in women, because we're not having these conversations. But again, back to this, no one is having a conversation. And we're not allowing kids, especially young boys, to just live in their truth. It starts at 3 and 4. A little boy plays with a Barbie doll. Take that Barbie doll down.
Yeah.
Take that down. Or we do the colors with boys wear boys wear blue. They don't wear pink. These are the things that we do. Stop playing with them girls.
Yeah.
Go play with the boys. These are the things that we do. And we won't allow children to be children, because, see, all of this stuff is taught.
Exactly.
Children just want to be children. They want to be free, but we won't allow them to be free. We want to limit them, and we create this template for our kids to be what we want them to be. I want you to go to college. I want you to be this. And when parents don't get that, the unfortunate part is they infringe that upon their children, and they let their children know that they're disappointed in them. And every child wants their parent to be proud of them.
They want to be accepted, yeah.
Because, and I say this because I have, and I've lost probably 4 clients, male clients, not through because they were raised. One was an attorney. His father was an attorney. He was raised with a whole bunch of attorneys, and so he was trained. You have to be an attorney. He didn't want to become an attorney, and so when he did not pass the bar, his father said, "You are a disappointment." That young man killed himself that night.
Wow.
I had to go to the funeral, and you understand what I'm saying? So that's why what people don't understand, that you got to embrace and love on your kids. That's especially your young men.
Yeah, I think it's the idea of, when we talk about, when I go speak, I usually play this clip, especially when I'm talking about masculinity. There's this commercial on YouTube. You can Google it. It's about, masculinity commercial. And, these men are saying all the things that they say what a man is supposed to be. And then they're like, yeah, this isn't me. Right. And so what we're really talking about is just allowing young black boys, older black boys, just men in general, allowing them to be human. Right. That's what it is at the end of the day. We're allowing them to be human. I know William Batts, he's a fellow social worker. He asked the question of, what do you say to the parent who says, when you get grown and move out, you can do as you please with your sexuality. While you're living in my house, you will present as a boy. And the kid wants to wear girl clothes and do historically girl activities. And I think you nailed it, where they have to step out of self, right? Because right now they're living in self, and they need to recognize, especially if they want to be, if they want to have a healthy relationship with their child, number one. But when we talk about that means they don't have a healthy relationship as a parent with themselves, right? And so, and with that, unfortunately, if the kid's not unable to get out there to provide on his own, then what's going to happen is 9 times out of 10, he's not going to be there, right? He's going to run away. He's going to go, and we know how I don't know how this kid identifies, right? Whether he might be transgender or what have you, but there's a slew of transgender teenagers who are homeless on the street because they've been kicked out of the house, and it's just completely unhealthy.
It's completely unhealthy, and the unfortunate part is they result into doing things that they result in living a very dangerous lifestyle. Many of them, prostitution is one of the biggest. It's because as long as you live in my life, you can't be that way living in my house. You can't. And to a certain point, I understand a parent's point of view to a certain point, where they may think that their child isn't mature enough to make that decision. However, I think that's when you have a conversation, and if your child is expressing, this is how I've always felt, this is not a decision, blah, 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 then we can move forward from there. But when you just totally get, but then what happens is, this is the unfortunate part, is that if something happens while they are out there, well, that's what happens when you choose that lifestyle. No, that happened because you did not embrace me. Yeah, for the shaming. And you chose not to embrace me because you were worried about what your friends was going to think at the local assembly. Yeah.
I want to shout my mom. I saw my mom comment. My mom, she was one of the first person when I was having identity questions. Woke up one day just having identity questions in my 20s. I was able to have that conversation with her, so that made it a lot more easier for me, even though it was, the difficult parts were still to come. But just even being able to have that conversation with her. It's a gentleman who, I'm friends with on social media platforms. His name is Eric Conry. And his son was in like Walmart or BJ somewhere in a princess dress, right? And he posted, he's really big on YouTube and what have you. And so, and the backlash that came with that. And what I always say, even with Billy Porter, and I got more insight by watching Pose as about to, because I haven't really had much interaction as far as, with transgender, people who identify as transgender youth, or adults. But, even with Odell Beckham, I posted and he's wearing a dress and I'm like, we're talking about material, right? We're talking about material. We're not even talking about, people are making so many assumptions based off the same material that we make socks with. And it's just mind boggling to me that people can't step out of to just even look at it and say, yeah, a dress, that's material, right? And what I'm so happy for the guy Eric that I was referencing and how he's parenting his son, because it says first and foremost, you have free range to be who you desire to be. We want you to be in a healthy, loving space first and foremost, and that I support you, that I got your back, right? And so that's the worst thing that you can do if, especially as a parent, to not have your child's back, even if we understand why and how we've been conditioned over time. And that's a great point. I'd rather have a gay son than no son at all, right? But just even if we show empathy and grace to how we've been conditioned over time, that's still no excuse. So I just finished the book today. It's called Heavy by Kaise Layman. And what he said was to his mother, he talked about the trauma growing up in Mississippi. And what he said to his mom said, I did the best that I could, right? And we hear that so often from our parents. And he was like, yeah, you did the best that you could, but you didn't do the best that you could, right? And so that's the reality of it. Yes, you did the best that you could, but if you were even open just one iota to a different thought process, if you were able to step out of self, step out of fear, right? Step out of fear, then you would have shown that, what? Yes, I can do better and I can be better, instead of it being hindsight, right? Instead of being hindsight, where we're talking about some years later where trauma has accumulated over time, that's no consolation prize saying that, I did the best that I could, or even saying I could have done better, because that doesn't do anything for the present, right? That may help with the healing process, but there still are things that need to take place.
That statement pisses me off. I'm going to tell you why it pisses me off. Because when you say I could have done better or I did the best that I could, there's always two words behind there. That is a but and a however. And that statement with those words afterwards would cause a child to feel deficient. Because I've had that. My mother and I are like this. Like we're best friends. Yeah. And she said that to me before. She said, Nicholas, I did the best that I could, but you decide. And I said to her, I'm not going to say exactly what I said to her. I said, how would you feel if I said to you, you did the best that you could as a mother, but and then I said what I had to say, and tears came down her face. Not to make, I don't like making my mother cry, but I want her to experience the same experience when I experienced. And to this day, and that was like 10 years ago, she said, apologize. I said, lady, if you don't stop apologizing.
You hear that, Mom? Mom, you can stop apologizing. Listen, it's love. We're just human. We're human. We're able to express ourselves. That's how we were raised to be. So that's the beauty of, you need to find comfort in that you've raised, talking my mom, but even your mother, that she's raised a son who's able to be expressive, even if it's to her.
Yeah,
right?
and that's the thing that I just want you. Parents have to be very careful how they handle their children, the things that you say, because we never forget it. Because your mom, you never ever forget it. And so I like it. I don't know. It's crazy, but it. I just hate that statement. I despise it. I hate it. Yeah. Because then it does something to me. Because Let's leave that statement alone.
Facts, man. Listen, and I know people are asking for part two. We running up on the time.
Okay.
But listen, I appreciate you coming on. I appreciate your candid. Okay, I will try. Get out of here, Mom. I appreciate your candidness. I appreciate you being vulnerable and transparent. So I thank you, brother. I thank you. And now I think when we see each other at the gym now, we can have more of a conversation. And we might say, hey, what's up? What's going on?
More of a conversation.
Yeah.
Yeah, but y'all, I'm not gonna work out with him because he be like, I'm deadlifting like 500 pounds and all that stuff. I ain't about that life. You gonna do it, brother.
Appreciate it. Well, let the people know how they can get in contact with you. I know it take like 8 months for you to, for them to get into it. I had one of my, my ex-girlfriend, she wanted to go because her friend goes to you. And, she was like, she tried to go get an appointment. It was like, at that point, this was a couple years ago. She was like, yo, it's like 8-9 week. I was like,
oh God,
you don't go to Franklin Mills and get the little soda joint. You know what I mean? You might just gotta rough it out. You might gotta rough it out. So, well, let them know how they can get in contact with you.
Well, I'm here on Instagram. I am Nicck Townsend Salon. I have a website. It's www.nicktownsend.com. You on this platform? I'm on Nicck Townsend on Facebook. My name is Nick. It's Nick Townsend, Townsend. If you want to book an appointment, you can right on this platform. You can push the book button. And if you want to purchase products, go to the link and you can purchase some of our products. Yep.
Okay, cool. And everybody, because you got about 25 people on here. So I know like 20 conversations about mental and emotional wellness, especially for regarding our Black boys and our Black men is so important. I'm going through this. I'm in this healing space and healing stage. And it's only right that I share this information, that I share this journey with other people who could potentially benefit. So feel free to follow me. I'm selling merch. I don't know if you can see it. This is what anxiety looks like. It's 25% off up until tomorrow for mental health, May being Mental Health Awareness Month. You could check the link tree out in my bio. That'll take you to my website. Hit the subscribe button once this comes up next week. And yeah, that's it, man. So Nick, again, I appreciate you, brother. Thank you.
Thank you, Phil.